Telecan, and you are in my office today. And today is a special day. I have a very special guest, Dr. Keith Holden. Thank you so much for being with us today. And before I actually introduce you to my guest, I want to ask you one question. Do you practice meditation, and are you aware of how much this 5 minutes practice a day can help you succeed in all your goals, particularly when it comes to eating healthy and being healthy? So to tell you a little bit about Dr. Holden, he's a medical doctor that is board certified in internal medicine and has extensive training in functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is a science-based medical approach that looks at the root causes of illnesses and emphasizes the use of food as medicine. Dr. Holden has a special interest in mind-body medicine, and he lectures at medical conferences on topics that range from gut health and its implication in systemic illnesses, as well as pulse electromagnetic field therapy and the power of mind in health and healing. So thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Holden. I really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule to be here today. And I want to ask first, if you can share with us what made you look into mind-body connection.
Okay, so as I practice medicine, especially in internal medicine, while some people got well with the therapies, others didn't. And even though I would possibly be using the same medication or similar medications, some people just didn't get well. And I found that the majority of those people were not handling stress well. And as we know, stress can exacerbate any illness, acute or chronic, but it definitely will have long-term detrimental impacts on the body. So a way to better manage your stress and to learn to regulate your emotional responses is by using mindfulness and meditation. So once I figured that out, I delved into the research behind meditation and mindfulness and came to find out that what the ancients have been teaching for thousands of years, we actually understand the science now because the research is available.
So you are telling us today that meditation is not some kind of a woo-woo new trend. It actually has solid science evidence behind it.
Correct. Many years ago, transcendental meditation was introduced to the West from the East, specifically India, and many yogis came over and a lot of people started learning about meditation, specifically at that time transcendental meditation, and a lot of people considered it woo-woo, and even today some people consider it woo-woo just because they don't understand that it is a legitimate mind science available to show exactly how it works now. I mean, not exactly, but there are some clues.
So once again, because in my approach, I always go to traditional wisdom. So when it comes to food, traditional wisdom is now backed by science and shows its validity. So it applies exactly the same when it comes to stress management through meditation, which our ancestors did as part of their cultural inheritance.
And I can give you some examples of the research that's available now regarding mindfulness and mindfulness meditation programs.
Please.
But probably ought to say the definition of mindfulness as it stands today. And this was established by a gentleman who has pioneered the field in academia, and that's Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's written several bestsellers about mindfulness and meditation. And he says it is simply attention to the present moment without judgment. And so that kind of goes along with the concepts that other people like Eckhart Tolle have discussed about present moment awareness. Being fully engaged in the present moment, like I'm being fully engaged with you, And in doing so, you find incredible power in that present moment instead of being in a space of regretting your past or fantasizing about your future, where if you stay in those realms, you lose all the power of creation in the present moment. And if you think about it, everything you do is in the present moment. Everything.
Correct.
And
the
so,
present is the future.
Correct, exactly. And so mastering the ability to stay fully engaged in the present moment has incredible benefits, not only for your mind, your emotional health, and your physical health. And so, you say, well, what's the definition of meditation? Well, it's nuanced in that mindfulness is meditation, and meditation could be considered a form of mindfulness. So watch, witness, allow is another definition, but you don't have to really get caught up in the definitions. Just understand the concepts and the practices that have evolved around those concepts so that you can become more mindful or integrate meditation into your daily life, because there are numerous, not only physical health benefits, but emotional health benefits.
I would love if you can give us an example of how using, let's say, 5 minutes of this practice, mindfulness meditation, how would improve someone's day-to-day life or health, since we are, again, dealing with foods and we care to reach the best health potential.
Okay, so let's first go back to help your audience understand what could be considered a simple 5-minute meditation. And that can be just simply going to a quiet space, getting in a relaxed position, closing your eyes, and then focusing on your breath. And the optimal breath is a belly breath, where you're actually using diaphragmatic breathing so that when you breathe, your belly expands and it comes back down. So if you watch a baby, that's exactly how babies breathe, and we knew how to do that, we just forgot. And that is predominantly a breath response when you're in a parasympathetic tone, and that's the relaxed part of your autopilot, versus when you're in a stress response, also known as sympathetic tone, then that is chest breathing. Mm-hmm. So first you have to remember to belly breathe, and there's a great app out there that you can download. It's called Breathe, B-R-E-A-T-H-E, the number 2, relax, breathe to relax. And it's a simple app. You can download it on Android or your iPhone, and it'll take you right through the process. And it's like riding a bike. Once you've ridden a bike, you get back on, you remember it. So it's just a reminder, and then you'll be able to do it. So bring the belly breathing in, close your eyes, get in a relaxed position, and just focus on diaphragmatic or belly breathing for 5 minutes. Set your iPhone or your timer to go off in 5 minutes. Now, it sounds simple, but you're going to find that your mind just wants to go. Your body and your mind will rebel because it doesn't like change to begin with, and we're so used to go, 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 be, be, be. But you're going to find that you just rein it back in and come back to your belly breathing, focus on your breath, and your mind will start to wander. Come back, focus on your breath, and next thing you know, 5 minutes are done. I guarantee you, if you just bring this 5-minute belly breathing practice into your everyday life, even 5 days a week, you'll start to know a dramatic difference in your overall perception of stress. It literally retrains your brain to go into a relaxation response, and it takes advantage of neuroplasticity, which is the ability of your brain to create new neuronal pathways. And once you do that, you create those pathways, I call them pathways to peace, when you're doing something like a meditation practice, and then that turns into a really slippery pathway, and it's easier and easier and easier. The hard part is at the beginning. Once you get past the retraining part of the neuroplasticity of your brain, then it gets easier. And then you'll find that you want to expand the time of your meditation and start bringing in other types of meditation practices. So, real world example of how this can benefit you as it relates to, say, food, is that a lot of people eat emotionally, meaning when they're stressed or upset or whatever, they'll go use food as a way to calm themselves. And that's been a part of our culture, actually, in that grandma always says, oh, eat and you'll feel better. And so it's a multi-pronged issue for us in this culture. But what happens is when you eat emotionally, you're not dealing with proper emotional regulation to begin with, and then it results in excessive calories and weight gain or inability to lose weight occurs. So if you bring this 5-minute meditation with breath and combine it, especially if you combine it with mindful eating, and so a simple example of mindful eating is how people say grace before eating. It's calming, centering, you're actually giving thanks for this food. And I'm not talking religion here, I'm just talking about getting centered and peaceful and being in a state of gratitude before you eat. It's a mindfulness practice, and it keeps you from eating out of stress. It brings you back to center and reminds you that, no, you can be relaxed and enjoy your food. You don't have to gorge yourself to make yourself relaxed. So it's catching yourself and being in the present moment in regards to eating.
Thank you so much. So my question was, when would you recommend us to add mindful meditation to our daily routine? So one would be right before eating. What would be another best time of the day? Okay,
so a really good time I recommend is when there is a break in the flow of your day. So for example, if you take, when you're leaving your house in the morning on the way to work, you can use the cue of walking out your door and some of us are in nature when we walk out of our door, some are not, they're in a parking garage or whatever, but if you still will be outside once you're in a car or whatever, and you can appreciate nature. So I say use nature as a cue. Whenever you go out into nature, let that be a cue for mindfulness. And so what I'll do when I walk outside, before I go get in my car, I'll literally go stand on the grass, do a quick 15-second grounding visualization of me growing roots into the earth. I'll take a deep breath of fresh air. I'll look up in the sky and think, wow, that's beautiful. And so I'm using nature as a cue to be mindful in the present moment and engaging the energy of nature, and it will shift you just like that. Instead of walking out of your door and you're tripping over a crack in the sidewalk because you're thinking about your to-do list and you're running 5 minutes late and blah, 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 and then that sets the tone for your day, and guess what? You're probably not going to have a very good day. So use nature as a cue, and every time you walk outside, even just do a 15-second visualization of grounding, and then bring in the energies of nature, whether it's a bird or the green grass or the fresh air or the sky, and it will shift you not only emotionally, but from a physiologic perspective.
Excellent, I love it. Absolutely, it makes so much sense. And that's something I tell people all the time, be in present time. Leave your phone, leave your iPhone, just go, your iPad, go walk in nature, touch a tree, hug a tree if you want, put your hands in the grass. We are part of the earth.
Yes.
And today with our modern lifestyle, we're so disconnected from the earth. And in the absence of being in nature, we just see deterioration in the way we respond to issues that come in our life, and the way we eat, and the way we sleep. I mean, the list is endless, really.
Yes.
And it's free.
Right. I guarantee if you take advantage of nature and engage it, you will notice a difference in your level of stress and how you perceive your reality.
So you're, instead of overreacting, you're a little bit calmer and you kind of step back and you look from, I have like a bigger picture and you have more emotional intelligence. I like that term, I heard that from you. And I think it's makes a lot of sense.
So two things. What Mihaela is referring to is that whenever you do long-term meditation, what they're finding in the research is that it increases the gray matter in the areas of the brain that help you regulate emotion. And when you better regulate your emotion, it increases your emotional intelligence, and that just means you're going to respond appropriately to stressors rather than react from being triggered in your subconscious, which can create an incredibly bad cascade of events, and yelling at people you love or kicking the dog or whatever.
Having regrets afterwards.
Exactly. So meditation helps you to master your emotions and literally changes your brain. That's what the research is showing.
Thank you so much. Now that you brought the gray matter in and all that, I love of course the science. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the research that is behind. Some of my folks here like a little bit more science, evidence. Some don't care too much, but keep yourself open and let's hear a little bit about the science behind meditation and mindfulness.
Right, so I just researched all of this because I had to do a talk at a functional medicine conference in Orlando a few weeks ago. And I thought, oh geez, is this going to bore people to death? And actually the science is pretty fascinating in that mindfulness meditation practices. And so let me give you an example of one study that I mentioned at the conference, where they had people listen to a guided meditation CD for 15 minutes a day, just 15 minutes out of your whole day, listening to someone with a nice musical background lead you through a guided visualization and positive thinking, you being in a relaxed position with your eyes closed in a comfortable position. 15 minutes a day for 8 weeks. And what it showed was that it literally changes the way your genes turn on and off.
Wow.
And the reason that's important is it's a field called epigenetics, and we're finding that you're not at the mercy of your genes. In actuality, it's your environment that influences how your genes express themselves, and thus what type of illness or wellness you experience. So your environment is really in control here, but the good thing is your mind and your thoughts and your beliefs and your attitudes are a huge component of your environment, which you literally have control over if you choose that. Now, granted, there are some people with really emotional problems and psychological issues that have to get balanced first, however that's going to be done. But for most of us, we can go to this place of regulation through mindfulness and meditation practices and create these epigenetic triggers or influences. And so what it showed was that those people that did that for 8 weeks had less oxidative stress, which means they had less body rust, as I like to say it. They had reduced inflammation, and we know inflammation is a root cause of illness. They also had, it was an anti-aging effect in that it provided telomere stability, and telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes which, when stabilized, have an anti-aging impact. There were a couple of other things I won't go into, but you can see how powerful mindfulness meditation is. And then there were several studies I came across that backed up the anti-inflammatory component of all this. There were at least 5 other peer-reviewed medical research studies that showed mindfulness meditation is a powerful anti-inflammatory, and it is the uncontrolled inflammation in our body that results in disease. And we do need inflammation, that's how your immune system works, but when it becomes imbalanced and it's excessive, you're going to have disease and illness. So mindfulness meditation can help you put a handle on that.
You can put together mindfulness meditation with anti-inflammatory nutrition, which if you follow me for a while, you know I have created an 8 weeks program, and I talk about the epigenetics and how important the food we eat is an expression of our genes. I'd like people to understand that food is much more powerful than any drug, and it's much more than giving us nutrition or calories or making us heavy or slim. It's way beyond that. And here you are telling us that our mind, our thoughts have the same power. So all these folks are things that we have control over. This is wonderful.
Yeah, so when you combine Mihaela's teachings about eating
to control
inflammation, and then you have the ability to practice mindfulness meditation in your own time, in your own home, at no charge. You combine the two, you have an exponential increase in your ability to control inflammation in your own body.
And health, therefore.
And thus it improves your health.
Excellent. So now that we kind of talk about having a program, you're talking about bringing meditation, and I know you are working on a workshop. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your workshop, or want to talk a little about the placebo before we move into the workshop? Because placebo effect it kind of ties in with.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah, and I would like to talk about the placebo effect because I do integrate it into my workshop. But the reason I want to talk about it is because the latest research on the placebo effect, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, proves the power of the mind. And the placebo effect boils down, ultimately, to the power of belief. And so the placebo, just to give you an example of what that would be in a clinical trial. It could be a pill that has no active substance, and it's used in a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, and that's the gold standard for researching a medication's effectiveness or a medical device's effectiveness. In the instance of a medical device, it would be what's called a sham procedure, where you use the device, but it may not be emitting any activity, or you may do, like they used to do in the old days, sham surgery, where they made an incision but literally didn't do the procedure that the other group got. They don't do that anymore. The rules have changed, but it was crazy to show that the people who had the sham procedure and the people who got the sugar pill, as I like to say, actually had the same benefits as the folks that got the real surgery or the real medication. And in some instances, the placebo beat powerful medications. And a perfect example of this are antidepressants. And in 1998, they did a meta-analysis of 16 antidepressants and found that 50% of the effectiveness of these antidepressants was due to the placebo effect, not the medication itself. Only 25% of the effectiveness was due to the medication.
So that at 50? 50%?
50% of the medication's effectiveness, or perceived effectiveness, was due to the placebo effect. Meaning those folks taking the sugar pill, the majority of them responded even better than the real medication.
Wow.
So like I said, does that mean antidepressants don't work? I said maybe, but it's more likely means that the power of the mind, aka the placebo effect, is very powerful in depression.
Wow.
And you say, okay, well I get that. It's an issue related to the mind, you change your belief, But the other research I've come across, and there's several studies on studying the placebo effect in Parkinson's disease. And so I'm like, well, this will be really interesting because I get it when you're dealing with the mind, but Parkinson's disease is a real physiological issue related to inability to release dopamine from the brain. And there's this one study that they took two groups of people, and one group got an injection of a dopamine agonist, meaning it was going to stimulate dopamine release, and another group got the placebo, an injection of saline, salt water. But what they found was that the entire group of Parkinson's patients that got the injection of saline, all of them had at least a 200% increase in dopamine release, and 50% of those had concomitant motor improvement.
Wow.
Because they get the tremors or the delayed reaction. 50% of those who got the placebo had reduction in tremor and improved mobility. So
mind-blowing.
that speaks for itself. It is the power of belief, and what it does is trigger your inner physician, which knows really what to do to take care of you. We were born with this innate ability, and our bodies and our minds are highly, highly intelligent organisms, and we've forgotten that we do know how to facilitate our own healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a fan of allopathic medicine. I'm not going to bash them. In fact, if I'm injured in a motor vehicle accident, I want to be life flighted to Shands and have whatever needs to be done. Or if I have a severe infection, I want somebody to give me an antibiotic to help me take care of that. You know, there are both ends of the spectrum which we have to consider, but the middle of the road, for the most part, especially as it relates to chronic illness, we can really ratchet up our inner physician by using the power of belief, mindfulness, and meditation.
Wow, thank you so much. This is like mind-blowing and eye-opener. It brings a lot of awareness of what is within our power. So now, please tell us a little bit about the workshop you have, because I would love for my folks out there to check it out and integrate that with the, of course, healthy eating and movement. You know, it's more that makes us healthy, but today we focus on mind in particular.
All right, so I'm guessing you're going to put some information up on your website about this, and what I've done is developed an 8-week Power of the Mind workshop, and it's going to be given Thursdays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. starting July 12th going through June 12th going through July 24th, and we're going to take Thursday, July 3rd off because of the holiday weekend. It's going to be given at the Integrative Health and Allergy Center, and the address and phone number will be on Mihaela's workshop.
I will put a link to your website.
Perfect.
I will put a link to, folks, below this video you're going to have a link to Dr. Holden's website, so you can click on and read all the details about the program, cost, registration, all that. So this is a live event, it's not an online program.
It's a live event,
okay.
But I am, at this time, working to present it in an online format.
Wonderful. For those folks that are outside of Jacksonville, or even if you live in Jacksonville and you have a busy lifestyle, this is the future. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this information.
And I'll let you know when the online program is ready and available, and you can let them know.
Great.
So basically what I've done, and Mihaela is going to have this mind map. I know you can't see it from there.
Yes.
But Mihaela is going to have this mind map of what I created. It's a conceptual model related to the power of mind and the various levels of consciousness that exist in all of us. And I start with higher mind, which is our spiritual connection. It's the part of us that is literally a spiritual channel. It only knows the truth, and we can align with that and bring it into other layers of our consciousness so that we become a truly integrative whole. And then we bring in the conscious mind, and the conscious mind is mostly what we're dealing with day in, day out, 24/7, think. And that includes the placebo effect, that includes the concepts of beliefs versus truths, and I will get into that in my workshop, because not every belief that you have is a truth. And what's important is to use your conscious mind to discern what is the truth. And a component of that is intuition. And I will show you how you can work with your higher mind and your heart mind, which is the next layer, to bring in the intuition.
Wow.
And the heart mind component, derive a lot of this information from the Institute for Heart Math, or Heart Math Institute. And they have done tons of research to show that your heart is literally an intelligent brain. And it has a much bigger electromagnetic field than your own brain. And that the heart is highly intelligent, has its own nervous system, and literally feeds information to the brain. I mean, and there's a two-way street, but there's a ton of information coming from your heart. And the research with heart math shows that intuition starts in your heart.
Oh, wow.
It's perceived by your heart. And how do they know that? Because they've studied heart rate variability and EKG variances in these precognition studies where they'll flash images on a screen, and the heart knows by a change in its variability or its EKG that that's about to be shown.
And if I can stop for 1 second, there is a free app that Institute for Heart Math created. It's called GPS for the Soul. That for your iPhone, you can actually measure your heart rate variability, and it tells you if you are in a danger zone in terms of like stress response, cortisol regulation, and then they indicate how to practice mindfulness and help you control that. So that's another great resource for you out there.
Yeah, actually I think GPS for the Soul is a part of Huffington Post. The app is called Inner Balance.
That's the one that you have to purchase
You have to purchase an ear clip, and it clips on your ear, and plugs into your phone, and also it'll plug into your iPad or your iPod Touch, and it walks you through a mindfulness practice, and it's focusing on breathing through your heart space, and then going into a place of higher energy emotion like gratitude and love, and doing the diaphragmatic breathing, but visualizing the breath through your heart. And when you do those things, what happens is it changes your beat-to-beat variation of your heart and creates coherence. And when you create coherence there, it's a reflection of your autopilot or your autonomic nervous system being balanced. And when your autopilot's balanced, guess what? Everything else comes into balance and coherence. And then all your physiology works efficiently together. So it's a very powerful app, very powerful concept. And I will teach how to use this app in my workshop.
Great.
And the concepts related to the heart's intelligence. And then we'll look at the component of your subconscious mind. And that is important because a lot of us are programmed in our childhood, especially when we undergo a lot of trauma, we'll develop coping mechanisms that have associated limiting beliefs that while they got us through the stressor in our childhood, as an adult, when we have more concrete thinking, it becomes a hindrance. And those limiting beliefs can literally sabotage you and your efforts, including eating and dieting and things like that. So we'll talk about how to remove limiting beliefs by working with your subconscious. That includes bringing in information about brainwave technology, where you need to really go into the alpha and theta range of brainwaves to work with your subconscious. And you can simply do that by going into a very peaceful meditative state through your mindfulness and meditation practices. Other times when you're in an alpha theta range, or when you are just waking up or about to fall asleep, and those are really good times to bring in affirmations. Affirmations don't work effectively, though, if you've got a limiting belief stuck in your subconscious and you don't believe the affirmation because of that limiting belief. That's why it's important to work with your subconscious, and I'll teach you how to do that at this workshop. And then we have DNA mind, and I bring this in because of my studies that I've found how your consciousness, through initiating a relaxation response in your body, triggers gene expression. And some people say, well, that's not really your mind, that's because you got relaxed. Well, do you know that? I don't think we do. And I think we were designed as such an extremely intelligent organism that consciousness pervades our entire system, all the way down to our DNA. How could everything work so efficiently in millisecond responses? We are one huge mind. And so I will bring in the components of that and show you how optimal gene expression through mindfulness practices is beneficial, and what happens when you have risky gene expression. And then we'll talk about other things like how the autonomic nervous system works and how to balance it. I'm not going to go in extreme detail on the science and physiology. I will hit on enough of that information so that you'll understand how everything works together, like an integrated spider web. And that's the basics of that mindfulness Power of the Mind workshop. And what I'll also do, there's at least one guided meditation associated with each level of the workshop, and I will have those available for download for free at no additional charge for everyone who pays to participate in the workshop, and that way you can use that at home at your leisure.
Wonderful. So on a practical level, what would be one, if it would be to name one tangible effect of me going into all your 8 sessions, what would I feel? I would be more in control of the way I respond to stress. If I'm like, let's say I tend to be a hyper or anxious person, or will I be able to make better choices or to stick with it? Because I know greens are good and donuts is bad, but I don't always make that choice, right? So will it help me in that way?
Well,
what would be?
From that perspective, when you learn about mindfulness and meditation and how to do it properly, and properly I mean a way that's going to resonate with you. Because if I try to teach you a very rigid model that you won't embrace, then you won't do it. So what I'm going to show you in this workshop is there are numerous ways to bring mindfulness and meditation, and then you're going to be able to pick and choose your favorites and then integrate them into your everyday life. But more importantly, because I'm a physician, I'm going to bring in the science so that you understand this is the real deal. This can have such a positive impact on your mental, emotional, and physical aspects of you that you're going to be incentivized to do these processes, and I'll present them so that they're fairly easy to integrate into your everyday life, and they're not some complex thing where you have to meditate for an hour a day. Now we'll say that an hour of meditation every day is incredibly powerful, but most people can't, first of all, get incentivized to do it, and they find that concept overwhelming. So that's why I say start with 5 minutes of belly breathing. And then what you'll find is that as you do that, you're going to incentivize yourself, because you'll start seeing the everyday real world impact of that practice. And that will include mainly, you'll find yourself regulating your emotions much better. You'll find that some people don't trigger you, that you'll be more responsive, emotionally, intelligently responsive rather than being reactive, that you're going to learn how to stay in the present moment so that you'll see the bigger picture of what's happening in that moment rather than narrow it down to a tunnel vision view of an experience like you're being victimized. And that's when we get really reactive and defensive, and it just adds the stress on top of the stress. So all these teachings that will be done in this workshop will teach you, first and foremost, that you have way more power than you realize. I'll teach you how to rein in that power, and then how to use it effectively. And when you do that, you're going to become, if you do it properly, you'll become more peaceful. You'll become more Zen-like for some people. Other people, their intuition will go through the roof. And the intuition is important because it's tying into an unexplained logic. It's a knowing. And most of the time we're looking to some outside authority to help us to know, when in reality, if you really tap into your intuition through mindfulness and meditation, you will become your own authority. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
This is great. So what I gathered, like, I'm so okay, I want to do this. I would feel grounded. I would feel empowered to make decisions, like you said, emotional intelligence. And then once you have that strength, like inner strength, anything becomes easier.
Exactly. you become self-assured.
Selfish.
And when you're self-assured, there is an inherent peacefulness in that you can't explain. And you stop searching and looking, and everybody's looking here and looking there and reading this and reading that. And really, what I'm trying to show you through this workshop is to go within.
Mm-hmm.
Transformation, the most powerful transformation, always starts within.
Within. Great. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I love it. So, just to recap, we had today Dr. Keith Holden with us, and we talked about mindfulness. And what I will do, I will have on below the video a link to his website where he describes the program. And if you are interested, which I hope you will be, or you are, you go ahead and try to make it. If you can make the live seminar, the online is coming soon. Also, we would love to hear questions from you and feedback, comments. You put them below the video. Dr. Holden and I will answer. And thanks for taking the time to be with me and Dr. Holden in my office today. Is the place to be if you want to take charge of your health by using not only real foods but also the power of your mind. Thanks again, and thank you, Dr. Holden, for being with us today.
Absolutely. Enjoy being here.